G'day, Paul.
How you doing?
Good to see you again.
You too. Welcome back to the Big Smoke.
Right, so we're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
As a famous political drama, comedic drama.
Yes, but we can't use that language on the internet. You get blocked.
No, he was famous for his swearing, but he went on to aspire to a tricky. No, not
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
Yes, Peter Capaldi was a brilliant doctor. He had that brooding Scottish eyebrow thing going.
People who don't know what we're talking about, just Google the thick of it.
Yeah.
I think it was one political comedy years that preceded it called The King and I.
Yes.
Oh, actually, that was a subsequent one. There was one before that too, with the same actors, with Paul Henrington and Paul Edmonton. Anyway, we digress. We're here to talk about the election, which is voting papers going out in a few days right across the motu.
Yes. Yep. Go out on Tuesday the 9th. They'll start rolling out. It'll probably take 3 or 4 days for them to arrive at people's letterboxes because the postal service keeps being shrunk.
It'll be longer than that in Kapiti. We're a rural, kind of semi-rural area.
Yeah.
And of course, they've got almost a month to get those voting papers.
Yep.
In fact, just over a month.
Yes.
The 12th or 11th?
The 11th is election day, and the voting papers have to be back by lunchtime on the 11th. So if you're returning a postal ballot, it's best to have it out by maybe the Wednesday beforehand, just to be on the safe side. If you find you don't get your voting papers, though, you can still do a special vote. Right. Even if you have to change your details right up until the 10th of October, you can do that and cast a special vote, usually in your council building, but each council's different with their information on that. Yeah, our libraries across Kapiti have a service centre where you can go in and ask questions and get special voting papers, etc. Perfect.
The campaign in Kapiti is brewing up. We've had a number of already candidate meetings. Yeah, I've seen 3 or 4. In fact, the last one for Grey Power organised happened at Otaki on Friday. I missed that one, but I was there for one on Wednesday, and they had 1 or 2 subsequent or prior to that. Shall I tell you a little bit what happened after the Grey Power, of which attracted great crowds? Yeah, well, Grey Power voters are your standard demographic for voters. They take a real interest, you know. Yeah. So the folks down there, Roger Booth and the team from Grey Power, have put out a really huge newsletter and magazine identifying the issues and the candidates, and coordinated a number of really big election meetings, which has been good for people to come along and listen, from the mayoralty to the district-wide Māori candidates, including right down to the district or the ward candidates. He's introduced all the community board people standing as well, but there hasn't been time to give them a platform as well. It is the biggest problem I think we've got with our democracy, is that sometimes you just have so much of it, and it is really hard, and you want to see everybody get the same share of information, the same chance to get up and talk. But everywhere's a little different. I know in the Waikato, for example, they tend to forget that there's a regional council, and those candidates come along going, well, what about us? We're important too. And it's so hard. It's so important for people to actually research their candidates because of it. Yeah, I mean, I listen to your content, and you often say you ask people to go out there and do their homework. Yeah. You are right. The regional councillor flies under the radar often. They look after a huge role in our region and in every region, from the natural environment to transport infrastructure. And they pick up a good whopping salary. So it's an important vote to have, which happens at the same time for the regional councillor. So after our meeting with Grey Power, after it adjourned on Tuesday, I kind of got almost besieged by the ringleader of Dean Harris. I was mentioned to you just before we switched the video. So that is that. I Love Kapiti, the Kapiti Concerned Ratepayers Association, and the Wellington Regional Voices for Freedom Coordinator. He wears a lot of hats. Yeah, and look, there's a few candidates, and I'll shout out to one in Paikakariki of Richard Young, who's been calling them out online. And it's tough to do that because you get subjected to their playbook of attack. It's a fascinating one because it's always about trying to undermine the people who are saying, I want to know the truth. And these are groups that claim that they are there because they want the truth, but they try and hide it from people. They try and downplay their connections to it. Now, I've always found that a really fascinating kind of cognitive dissonance. It's the same sort of people who the vaccines didn't work, but also the virus was a fake. It's that kind of two truths existing in one space kind of mentality. And what I found in particular with that group is
we're not voices for freedom, but we are all voices for freedom kind of thinking. This group isn't Voices for Freedom Connected, but it's quite clearly Voices for Freedom Connected because of the people that you have in there. So it is a really fascinating look into how these groups have set themselves up to try and get into the seats this year for decision making.
So a couple of things happened between those two Great Power public meetings, and they are public. There's 150 tonight. They're really well patronised. One was on Tuesday, and one was in the morning, and then one on Wednesday evening, or vice versa. So I was videoing a number of the candidates for my own edification and to share it with the candidates. So, the ones who are running had an opportunity. I'd flick it through to them. I started videoing one of the candidates, Joan Welsh, who's running for We Love Kapiti and Dean Harris's mob. And she stopped in mid-flight and demanded I should stop filming, which was a surprise to me, I had a gasp. Because what does it say?
It does say a lot. I mean, there are some places that there are rules around filming. That's down to the place that owns the building, for example, or it might be an organisation that doesn't feel comfortable filming stuff. But generally speaking, the rules are actually pretty clear around filming in this country. If you have permission to film in a location, like we do now for the cafe that we're in, then you can film. And we only have single-person rules around permissions for filming and recording.
Right.
So you don't have to actually ask a candidate for permission to film. You can film as long as you are part of that conversation and you are giving yourself permission. It's not the greatest law out there, but it is how the system is set up at the moment. But for a candidate to say, no, don't film me doing my sales pitch to vote for me, that should be a red flag for people.
It was, and you're famous for trying to dig out your red flags, which are resonating with a lot of people across New Zealand, Aotearoa. After that meeting finished, I got besieged by Dean Harris. We all know a lot about Dean now that we didn't know a few months ago, thanks to your journalistic work. By the way, Dean says hello.
I'm sure he does. He's probably surprised to see me out of Mum's basement, actually.
Yes, he described you in a rage to me that you're a teenager living in your mother's basement.
Holy shit, I'm 45 years old. I would love to look like a teenager at my age.
Anyway, he's allowed to be angry, and it says something if he is angry of the kind of work and your researchers and people right across the country are interested in what candidates are doing and where they've come from. And that's a legitimate...
Oh, it is. I think with the stuff that I do, I'm really careful not to tell people who they should and shouldn't vote for. That's not my thing to say. It's up to everybody how they vote. But it's important for me that voters have all of the information out there to make a qualified decision. And if you've got a candidate who's hiding that, that's a red flag for me, as it is for many people. So I've always found it really fascinating, the responses that I get actually to those videos from people. Every person who has been in one of those videos who has responded has not really dealt with what it was that's been put up online about them. There hasn't been I'm a horrible transphobe and I own it kind of thing. It's been, no, I'm actually a lovely person. You should see my policy points. Or, sure, you said horrible things about me wanting to storm Parliament, but the argument is you're just being mean to me because I'm a woman. It's like, no, you said you wanted to storm Parliament and that vaccines aren't real and you stalked the former Prime Minister. So there's a lot to be said there about taking responsibility. And I think that's a big part for an elected official. You need people who can take responsibility when they screw up because they're dealing with millions of dollars of people's money.
One of the things you said to me when we talked a month or so ago, ask these people about their vision. Try to find out what their vision for a community would look like. And they did not and have not done that. They're really angry. The theme that came out when I saw Dean and the others speaking in the last week, they are quite upset with the world around them. Fine. Things need to change through your worldview. But Dean was fuming and within a couple of inches of my face, yelling at me. He wouldn't let me respond at all. I said, why don't we sit down and have a video conversation? He refused any of that. He got louder and louder. And I just had to eventually just walk away from it because it wasn't a productive, equal conversation. A day later, in fact, on Friday's candidates debate up in Otaki, when Joan Welsh was speaking, she also had an altercation with the audience about somebody who wanted to film and demanded that stopped. So there's a pattern going, and that wasn't isolated just at myself because they know I'm active online.
I mean, if you ever look at things like the Meet the Candidate events that they are going to, They won't show up. In fact, We Love Kapiti very specifically messaged the organisers of It's in the Ballot and said, as a group, we're not coming because we can't control the answers or the questions that are given. We don't think it's the right thing for us to do. We're going to focus on our event. And I see that they're putting on their own Meet the Candidates events. It's going to be controlled to within an inch of the letter of the law, and they're going to do everything they can to make their candidates look good and every other candidate look bad. They will be armed with legoimas and OIAs and go, here's one line that was slightly off, and why is this your fault? So yeah, it's...
Sam Summers and the team from It's in the Ballot are doing extraordinary work on the smell of an oily rag, taking it all over the North Island, and getting great participation. And even though there might not be a ton of people in the audience, that's not the whole story. People can go back and look at the archive and listen to the candidates, the ones who bothered to turn up.
And it's a great resource for that. I know he's in the Rotorua this week, and I'm actually really hoping, because he's actually asked me to help out tonight doing some remote editing, so I'm really hoping that they've got Robert Lee in the group that's tonight, because he is so elbow deep in the Voices for Freedom stuff that it's really fascinating to watch his answers. He was part of the Voices for Freedom training group for other local government members. And so seeing how they present to the public is really interesting in that respect. But when I'm doing the work for Sam, it's not something that I would put up online because it's obviously Sam's property. But it's interesting stuff.
So listen to Dean and Joanne and the others who are running in our area in Kapiti for We Love Kapiti and the concerned ratepayers. They don't talk about vision. As we said, they bang on about the rates capping thing, which has been proven that it's not an effective or a measurable or a sustainable tool.
The video I did for Hastings, actually, I came up with this brilliant analogy. It's like a washing pile. It's a pile of washing in your house that you haven't folded for ages and ages and ages. And then when you come to fold the washing, you find you're only allowed to fold 2 or 3 things and everything else has been folded. The pile's just going to get bigger. It's the same with your rates. If you cap somebody's rates, they're never going to be able to work through all of those things that a council needs to work through. And yet rates rises suck and they sting in some places. They've been really high, but to cap it is not the answer. It will actually make things worse for everyone.
Very early morning on Thursday, a group of the elected members and the contractors and the mayor turned up for the blessing of our new library that's going to be built in Waikanai called Te Ara Whetū. The Pathway to the Stars, a beautiful story about finding knowledge. These are the kind of things which really make community. And bless them, but these folks who are running on these narrow fringe tickets don't see these as part of the mix of a council role. They think, it's all about just dropping rates. In fact, their conversation is incredibly narrow focused. You asked me talk about vision, and they don't talk about what a community is.
I don't know that they can grasp it properly, to be honest, because community can be a lot of things to a lot of people. And these organisations, they're really widespread. But for most people, we see community as something kind of centralised. It's the people around us and the shops that we interact with and where our kids go to school. So it might be just a misunderstanding of the concept for them. But what I've seen, particularly with the We Love Kapiti group, they focus on numbers. They focus on cosmetic pain points like speed bumps and potholes. But if you talk to those ratepayers at the Grey Power meeting, and you ask them about potholes, 9 times out of 10, you'll actually find that turn around and say something like, "We're sick of boy races. Can you give us a speed bump?" They're a tool that's used to help people in some situations and vilified by people in others. And to sit there and vilify one thing in particular and focus on one really narrow band of information, it's no vision at all.
Anyway, but that kind of wraps up that kind of theme. No doubt when we talk closer in the middle of the election in another few weeks probably, we'll see how it's tracking. But to see the anger, and I watched them when I was sitting at the dais there for the Waikanai Ward conversation when all our candidates were up there, and seeing Dean and Joanne and the others sitting in the front row, they don't look happy. And for him to attack me in that way, which he's entitled to, I can wear it, he can call me whatever he likes and criticise the content that you've created. That's okay. We can cope with that. But it shows that he's feeling the pinch, that people are starting to uncover and find out a little bit more about them.
And that's good. I mean, people might agree with, and that's fine. They've got every right to vote for whoever they want to.
Indeed.
But they have every right to know who it is that is actually after their vote.
Great. All right. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Good chatting.
Easy.